the monthly Consumer Issues program hosted by Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County. On the second Thursday of each month, we're joined by New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher, who makes a presentation on a topic of consumer interest. Today, he'll provide us with an update on avoiding consumer problems on the internet, including ways for consumers to protect their identity, financial accounts, and personal information, and what they can do to resolve problems should they occur. Thank you for joining us today. And now here is New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher with today's program.
Thank you, Sandy. Good morning, everyone. For those who are live, for those of you watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day you're watching this, welcome. Also for those watching live, happy holidays. We are right in the throes of the holiday season. And for those of you watching afterwards, I hope you had a nice holiday season. And this is an appropriate topic, internet safety and online purchasing and things for this time of year. When people are going out and buying things. Internet is a wonderful thing. It can take us to places, provide us with information. We can expand our knowledge using the internet. We get information with the click of a button. It shows us how to do things. Example I use sometimes is when I remember I was getting an oil change or something, and the technicians or the manager at the auto place came out and said, "Wow, Mr. Danaher, we did a 50-point check on your car, and the technician is recommending that you get a this or that, the other thing." And one thing that was mentioned was a cabin air filter, which is just the air that circulates within the cabin. And I said, "Well, how much for that?" And I can't remember the price now, but it was like $75 or something. I said, I'm not that interested right now. And I said, "No, I'll pass." And just out of curiosity, I looked later. I said, "What's this cabin air filter thing?" So I went out and I went on the internet quickly, and within a matter of seconds of clicking, I think I just put in the make and model of my car and changing cabin air filter, something like that in a search. Boom, like that, it comes up, and there were videos of how to do it. And I checked what the prices were for in-cabin air filters, and it was like $15. And literally, the video showing that how to change a cabin air filter on my particular car, the guy did it on purpose, one-handed, and it probably took him 30 seconds. And it was just, you do this, boom, it's out. You pull the one filter out, put the new filter in, and done. For those of you who like to know the particulars of it, the cabin air filter is usually behind the glove box, and you just had to drop the glove box down. But it took me like that. And for $15 and a minute of my time, other than getting the air filter at the auto supply store, I was able to do that. So the internet has all of these things, and I'm not used to doing that because I'm an old guy, but every time I would ask my kids something about, "How'd you figure out how to do that?" And so their response is the internet. And they go on and they see videos or have written instructions on how to do things. It really is a wonderful thing. How to fix things. People go to college now on the internet. In fact, in a lot of places at various times during this pandemic, people have had to do all of their college education online. We know that our younger people, elementary school, middle school, high schools, some have gone to complete remote or at least partially remote type instructions. So the internet is becoming more widely used. Recently, the statistics have shown a huge increase in people going online to do their shopping, especially at this time of year. And especially because of the pandemic. People are buying groceries, they're buying Christmas holiday presents, they're getting their meals delivered to them, not just the call in order to have a pizza delivery person, they're getting meals from delivery services. I just saw in the newspaper today about an article about meal delivery companies whose sole business is to just deliver, goes to restaurants, picks up and stuff, has filed a securities initial public offering to go public. It was a private company and go public, owned by shareholders of it. So it's becoming much more prevalent. The statistics are that, incidentally, I found this morning online, is that the difference between 2018 and 2020, the dollar volume of people purchasing online in 2018, it was $2.8 trillion. It's up this year to about $4 trillion, expected to be next year $4.8 trillion of online sales. Also, statistics are that approximately 80% of Americans shop online. And in e-commerce sales are increasing at annual rates of 13 to 15% every year. So 15%, 15%, 15% every year. So over a short period of time, e-commerce sales will have doubled. With that all said, we do need to be very careful about our use of the internet. There, to some extent, has been a comfort factor that we've all experienced because we've been using the internet so much over the last 15 years, 10, 15 years, that we've become, in some instances, too comfortable. And we have to step back a second. We have to think about our use of the internet because it is not like a face-to-face sale. So we really need to be careful about using the internet. Some of the areas that we need to be very careful about is who we're giving out our personal information to in order to have an online transaction. We need to be careful about that, and more about that later. Sending money over the internet. Who are we sending money to? Do we know who we really are dealing with? And we need to be able to do research so that we can compare prices and product features and that sort of thing. So we need to be very careful about clicking on links that may have been sent to us purportedly by others that we might know or we think we know, but it isn't necessarily the people who they say they are. So be really, really careful. Buying online is great. I have to admit that I'm not a big go to the store kind of person and have purchased all of my Christmas presents this year online. And we are having daily deliveries by the local post office, FedEx, UPS. I can hear the truck going up and down the road as I sit here working from home and buying things. I can hear them go by several times a day, and I'm in a kind of a set off way. I'm not in the main drag, let's say. So they're coming up and down our street multiple times every day. So it's great. We avoid long lines. We avoid the time it takes to go to the store. We don't have to be around others in this pandemic situation that we're in. We may be able to use the internet to do a more thorough price comparison and product comparison of the things that we would like to purchase. So it really is good, but there are certain things that we need to do as good consumers so that we protect ourselves. First thing of tips that I have are think before you click. We might get an enticing offer to buy a particular product and say, wow, that's a great deal, let's click. Before you do that, be careful. Maybe do some research on who it is that sent you that link. Do some research on the company that you are purchasing this particular thing from before you immediately click. Make sure that you know who you're dealing with. Do your homework. Check to see if this business has a physical store. And if it does have a physical store, where is it located? Get customer service information about the business. Read reviews that may be posted about this business. I will tell you that I have fallen victim to these sorts of things as well. I make mistakes too. And I can remember just within the last 6 months that there was this enticing item that suddenly showed up on something I was looking at. I don't know if it was on a social media site, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and I can't remember how it came to me. I said, man, that looks really cool. I think I'll get that thing. And without doing any research, my mistake, I ordered the item thinking it was a certain thing. And when it ultimately came, I'm embarrassed to say, I got ripped off. And it turns out that it ultimately came from China, that it was not it was something similar, but it was not what was portrayed in what was in the, lack of a better term, advertisement of what this item was. And it wasn't a huge sum of money, so it wasn't a big a deal. But I said, darn it, why didn't I listen to my own advice? So I should have done a little more research. And interestingly, other things have cropped up similarly that I've seen. I say, I'm gonna check into this a little bit more before I go ahead and do anything. So read the reviews, check into the business. The Better Business Bureau, bbb.org, has reliability reports on businesses that you can put the name of the business in and see if it's, and that's true with online or regular physical businesses that you might be considering doing work with, that you can do a search against them to see, what kind of comments and reports and things there are for the business. Possibly call the merchant itself. So if you're getting something, an email, or you're on a website, social media site where it talks about this particular business and this great deal, whatever, you may want to check directly with the business to make sure that everything is legitimate. Another tip, pay by credit card. I don't recommend paying with debit cards, so just simply because think about how the transaction works. With a credit card, credit cards are loans. You don't think of them as loans, but they're actually revolving lines of credit, revolving loans. They go up, you pay it down, they go up, you put more purchases on, they go up and up. So actually the payment is made by the bank to the merchant, not out of your direct funds. With a debit card, which is the plastic for your bank account, it's allowing somebody to dip into your bank account and pull the money out directly. So with the use of a credit card, you're really using someone else's money rather than using your own money and then trying to get your own money back afterwards, rather than challenging the charge on your credit card. There are protections with using the debit card, but more so with the credit card. And under the federal rules, that with a credit card, the most exposure you have on a fraud is $50 rather than whatever it was that was taken from your bank account. And you can challenge those charges. So we recommend that you use a credit card. I suggest you maybe go a step further, because there's multiple credit cards out there, that you might have a credit card for the sole purpose of online purchases. So you have a main credit card that you use at the stores and all that stuff, and maybe it has a relatively large a balance that you're allowed. You might have an account, you might have a credit card account that allows you to make credit card purchases up to thousands and thousands of dollars. You may not want to use that one on your online purchases, and maybe you want to have just a credit card with a small credit balance that you're allowed, that you can use to make your online purchases, and only use it for that purpose, so that if for some reason there's a fraudulent charge, or someone steals it, or what, you can cancel that one and not ruin the main credit card that you continually use. So that's a suggestion out there. Be careful about what information that you give away online. We're always talking about identity theft here at our sessions at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and it is a big and growing problem. People are stealing our identities, all of our personal information, and going out and doing things in our name, such as stealing our credit card number and making purchases on a credit card that you did not authorize. You want to be very careful about what type of personal information that you share. Credit card numbers, bank account numbers, even other personal information, where you live, your telephone numbers, your family members, what you're doing. Be really suspect about putting that out there so that people have it. If you are uncomfortable with sharing information, let's say you're online, so let's say you're buying something, and all of a sudden, you're being asked questions that you think are a little bit strange for this particular type of transaction. You may want to consider canceling that transaction, not following through with it. Keep tabs on your credit card statements and your bank statements. What I encourage people to do is review the credit card statement as soon as it comes each month. Or if you're one of the people that has gone completely internet or completely remote and not getting any statements and things and doing everything online, your bank statements, your credit card statements, check them online, check them regularly. Make sure that all the charges on your credit card or any debits against your account, credits against your account, check them, make sure they are yours. And if they are not, put an immediate stop to it. These things usually, like all frauds, they usually start small. And then once they work, the scam artists start getting larger and larger and larger and larger. So that initial purchase that may be fraudulent on your card, you go, oh, it's no big deal. I don't really recall that transaction. I'm not going to let it go. Check on it. Make sure that it is a charge that's legitimate for you. If it is not, challenge it immediately. So for those of you like me who still get your written credit card statement or bank statement each month, when I get it, my wife and I go through the bill and make sure that every charge is ours. The best thing that you can do is, and what we do is, we keep the receipt for every credit card purchase that we make, and we stick it in an envelope. And at the end of the month, when the credit card bill comes, we match up every receipt with every bill. My wife actually does that. And then she gives me the bill, and I look, and there are some that are circled that she didn't have a receipt for. And I can look into those. Let's say it was an online purchase. Let's say it was an Amazon purchase. I go onto my Amazon account and say, okay, did I purchase something for $16.33? And sure enough, there it is. And I didn't write it down, or I didn't print off the order, but at least I could check and verify. But if we see something on there that it is not like we purchased that, I'll immediately get on with with the merchant, because usually on your credit card bill, there's an 800 number for the merchant. And so I'll either call the merchant or call the credit card company and say, this charge doesn't look like something that was mine. And they will research it, and you'll be notified about that particular charge. And the sooner you do that, the better off that you are. I'll use an example. This seems like yesterday, but it was actually several years ago now, when these cyber thefts really kind of started happening. And one of the really big cyber breaches for a merchant, you may remember, and I don't remember the exact year, but I remember it was this time of year. So it was around Thanksgiving time, a little past Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, where we saw I saw around that time, I saw there was something, a purchase at toysrus.com. And our kids were older at that time. All my kids had grown up, and they were all out of the house. And so it had been a really long time since I had purchased anything at what was then Toys R Us. And we immediately called. My wife met me at the door when I was coming in from work one evening. She said, Mike, we got this, our credit card bill, and there's this charge. And it was a good chunk of change. It was over $1,000 at Toys R Us. Do you know anything about the purchase? I haven't been. She's like, immediately got on the phone, and it turns out that the scam artists' acquisition of my credit card information was a result of the infamous Target breach. We had used our credit card on the checkout process at Target, and we'd put our credit card. This was the swipe days. This was before the chips, so it was swiped, and their payment credit card system had been breached by scam artists. And they had gotten access to people's credit card information who had used the checkout swipe at Target. And all of a sudden, all these, as a result of the breach, the scam artists were using people's credit cards and going out and buying things. And that's what happened in my particular case. And we got on it right away. And we were able to cancel the credit card. That was the only charge. And it was just going to be a start. I know it would have been a start. And they would have continued to use it and cut that right off. So the same should be true for all of us now. Look at our credit card bills when they come in. Make sure that all the charges on your credit card are yours. Don't blow them off. Don't say, it was only $25. I'm not going to worry about it. Make sure it's yours, because it could be the start of a big hit on your credit card. So make sure, review your bank statements, review your credit card statements. When you are using the internet, make sure that you do not use public Wi-Fi to make purchases or put out any personal information. Dates of birth, credit card numbers, bank account numbers, names, addresses, birth dates, mother's maiden name, all these things. Do not give it out while you're using public Wi-Fi. If you're at the local coffee shop and you're saying, put my computer up here and I guess I'll do my Christmas shopping now because it's most convenient. Do not do it if you're using their public Wi-Fi. That Wi-Fi is not secure, and people can end up getting a hold of any personal information that you send out over that public Wi-Fi. Use a private, secure internet to make those purchases, whether it's your own internet at home that's password protected, or if you have what's referred to as a VPN, a virtual private network, which is what I'm using right now, actually. It's my office internet connection, but it's through a VPN. You could sometimes use your cell phone as a hotspot, mobile hotspot that's secure. Use that. Do not do it through a public Wi-Fi system. Another thing, something that I've talked about repeatedly here at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and that is use unique and long passwords or passphrases. Do not use short, common words that could be picked up in a dictionary. Scam artists have these things called password crackers, and that they can crack a password if it is not complicated enough. What the current state of the art is for passwords is use phrases, not phrases that you took from a book that are a common phrase like 70 years ago. Don't do that. Make up something yourself and just use it as a phrase, and that's the password. As much as you can in that passphrase, use symbols and numbers. For example, instead of an A, use the ampersand, the @ sign, the A with a circle around it, or ampersand, which is the big question mark. Use something like that, or a number in place of a letter, 5 in place of an S, those sorts of things. And the longer you make it, the more robust it is. You can go a long way toward protecting yourself. The other thing is, and this is probably the hardest thing for everybody, and that is, do not reuse passwords, especially on your financial accounts. Those should be separate from any other passwords you have, because if you're repeating passwords on multiple sites, you are running the risk of handing somebody the golden key that will unlock all of your private information, all your passwords. I know that's difficult. I know it's difficult to have this long list of different passwords and things that are out there, but you are going to protect yourself if you do that. Please make sure to use, as long as you can, as long as the password can be, and with as much numbers and symbols interspersed in there to protect it, then it can't be broken. Sometimes you can now start using multi-factor authentication. Like, wow, that's pretty complicated. It's not. All it means is that you can have your bank account set up, or your credit card account set up, or any other thing that you want protected, to require a second verification. I'll use the example. For use of my office Wi-Fi when I'm out, it's the VPN, which I'm using now. In order for me to log my computer into the VPN, I not only have to enter a password on the computer itself, but what I also do is when I try to log in, I can't log in until I enter a separate password, which is unique and different every time I log in. And it's a number that gets sent to my cell phone. So when I attempt to log in, I have to put in my password. And then when I enter the password, another box comes up and says, enter the number that we're sending to you on a separate device, which is my cell phone. I look at my cell phone, and a couple seconds later, this number comes in. I have to type that in the computer, and that is telling the VPN that I am who I am, because that a special password is coming. So it's multi-factored, meaning I have to enter a password initially. Then after the password, a note gets sent to my cell phone, and then I enter that number in and lets me log in. There's other ways. There's, for some, excuse me, I have an office cell phone. In order for me to get into my office cell phone, I have to have a thumbprint. In addition to passwords, I have to have a thumbprint, so to make sure that it's my thumb that's turning on that device. So try to set it up, especially on your bank accounts and credit card statements. There's also warnings that you can set up, which is if you buy something on your credit card, that your credit card company immediately sends an email to you or a text message to you saying, hey, just purchase something. That way you'll know that if somebody has stolen your credit card and that a purchase is attempting to be made, you'll be tipped off that, hey, a purchase is being used. And if it was your purchase, you look and go, you know what? I'm glad I have this. I'm glad that they sent me that note that, yes, it was me that did that. But you'll be really happy when somebody tries to steal your credit card. All of a sudden, you get a text message or an email saying, hey, your credit card was just used at Target. And you can say, whoa, no, it wasn't. Notify your credit card company, you'll get shut down. If for the only reason you say to yourself, I know that when I purchase things, the business has to make money. And if the business doesn't make money, it goes out of business. And the only way the business is going to make money is if what they make is greater than what it costs them to sell you that item. And in that gap of what it is the pilferage factor. There people steal things and walk out of stores and make fraudulent purchases and that sort of thing. And the businesses can't continue if their cost of doing business is so high that they can't make money. So my view of it is when I buy something, there's a factor in that price that I pay for people stealing things from this business. You know, there has to be an accounting measure for if things go out the door, they can't sell things at a lower price because, you know, they're just not making enough money to continue on. So I'm going to do what I can do to keep that gap there for that business so that they will stay in business. And that is, I'm going to do what I can do to make sure that if there's a fraudulent charge on my credit card, that I notify somebody right away so that can get stopped and taken care of. And I hope others would do the same thing. Next thing is whatever device you're using to purchase things online, make sure you keep it up to date. Make sure that you have up-to-date virus protection, up-to-date malware protection. And periodically, I know with our phones, all of you that have phones out there, we always get that notice, update your operating system for Apple or Android or whatever device you have. Make sure you do the updates. Same with your computer. If you get a notification from Microsoft that there's been an update to your particular operating system, update it. Make sure that it's updated and brought to the latest version, because there are protections that are in those later versions that might help you to protect yourself. Also, kind of separately from that, if you're buying things online, make sure you know who you're dealing with and make sure you know what the return policy is. It's just being a wise consumer. If you're buying something, especially when it's going to be a present for someone, a gift for someone, not something that you would necessarily use, and you would like to have it returned, potentially, you could return it. Make sure you know what the return policy is so that you don't get in a situation where you can't return something because of your fault that you didn't know what the return policy was. Look and make sure you know what it is. Now, using the internet is not just for buyers. The internet's being used by sellers and not merchants. You and me, we could be selling things online. There's all types of sales sites out there. One of the big ones that you hear about a lot is Craigslist. And there's auction sites that you can offer things up for auction. Just be very careful if you are selling online. Also, our newspapers are online as well. I look at several newspapers a day within our particular region. The Ithaca paper I look at every day. I look at the Oneonta paper, the Elmira paper, in addition to where my coverage area is the Binghamton newspaper. And I look at those every day to see what news is going on. Well, those papers are available online, and their classified sections are available online. So even if you offer to sell something by taking out an ad in the classified section of the newspaper, that can potentially be online anyway. And scam artists are out there lurking, trying to get you to send them things that they won't pay for or aren't necessarily entitled to, or asking for personal identification information. One of the big areas where these types of scams can occur are what we refer to as the fake check scam. And it generally is someone will send you a check and say, hey, go ahead and cash that check to buy the item that you're offering for sale. But the check's a little bit more than what is you're selling the item for. And they say, well, just cash the check, keep the amount that you need for the item that I'm buying from you, and then send back the money, which is the difference. The checks are fake. What they're hoping to do is to get you to wire out money or send a gift card that you purchased with the money, or somehow get the money to them before you discover that the check that you just cashed is bogus. It's happening online. People are buying things. Let's say you offered something on Craigslist. You have a litter of puppies and you want to sell a puppy. And somebody contacts you and says, I want to buy one of the puppies. Well, puppies are $400. I'm going to be having a check sent to you for $800. Just cash the check, keep the $400. And if you would wire me back the remaining $400, undoubtedly a scam. They're never going to come and pick up the puppy. You're going to find after you run to the bank, cash the check, get the cash, wire it out to them, that the check was bogus, but you've already sent it out. You sent out cash, but you deposited a check. And when the check is bad, it's your responsibility, not anybody else's. So that $400 that you wired out is gone. And we've seen that happen time and time again on these auction sites. It happens on the auction sites on the buyer side as well. One area is, and we've had this situation happen in Ithaca, and that is that people who were coming in from out of town to rent to go to school at Ithaca or at Cornell. And rather than come and look at the apartment, they look online and they think, oh, wow, this is a great deal. It's part of a house and it looks great. And I looked at where it's located and I saw the picture of the house and it looks great and it's a real good price. And okay, I'm going to send the first month's rent, security deposit, and last month's rent and send it. And when I get to town in August to rent and move in, I'll show up. And everything will be great. And they show up and they find out that the place is not for rent. Somebody it's actually for sale in some instances where the scam artist took a picture off the multiple listing service where it was an online saying, hey, this house for sale. They took the pictures, posted it in a separate ad saying this house is for rent. And all of a sudden the tenant, the prospective tenant paid all this money, shows up to live in the apartment, and it finds out that it's been recently sold and the person who bought it is living there. It was never offered for rent. That's, again, one of the downsides of just using online. You need to be a good consumer, check it out, figure out maybe in this case, find out if who might be living at that property and try to contact them separately from any type of advertisement that's on there. And make sure. Likewise, on the seller side, if you're selling something using Craigslist or things, what I recommend that you do is only sell to someone who is local, who is going to come and pick up the item and hand you the money. Don't be doing the transaction completely online unless you know who it is, exactly who you are dealing with. I think you should use, you can use these sites, but understand that there are some potential pitfalls, so you really need to be a good consumer. Only deal with people who you can deal with face to face. Staying safe online, another area that's particularly important, especially for our younger people that are online all the time. Be very safe. Do not give out any personal information to someone online. That would include, be very careful about what you post as far as your profiles on social media. Be very careful about who you allow into your social media network, these Facebook, Instagram, Twitters, yada, yada, yada. Make sure you are not giving out personal information. You don't know who's necessarily getting their hands on that information. Those social media, social networks are really cool. I use them, I'm on them. I'm usually a lurker. I usually don't post a lot of stuff about myself, but I see what people are posting. There are people that I'm friends with that I hadn't seen since high school and have been able to catch up with them. So they are really great, but really be careful about your use of online. Make sure you know who you're dealing with and be selective on who you let into your domain and have access to information. Be careful about what you post itself. Don't be posting on your Facebook page the great vacation that you are currently on in Italy. That means you're telling everyone, I'm not home. If somebody wants to go to your home when you're not home and rob your place, if you're not careful about who you're letting have access to that information, it's not wise to do. So be very careful about that. Other separate things with online to be careful about are phishing. It's P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G, not F-I-S-H-I-N-G. Phishing scams are out there. People are trolling for information, sending you emails. They're trying to get you to give out personal information. The rule of thumb is do not give out personal information to somebody that you don't know, and use a very liberal version of people you don't know. If it's someone who you think you know, make sure it is who that person is. Maybe call them on the phone. Say, did you send me this email? You're looking for this, that, or the other thing. Check with them first before you just all of a sudden type it. Be very careful about the websites that you are on. Make sure that it is a secure site before you give out any personal information. For example, you want to buy something. In order to buy something, what do we expect to have to do? We have to give our delivery address. We have to give our billing address. We have to give out our credit card numbers, all those sorts of things. Make sure that you are on a secure site. And the best way to do that is look up in the URL line, which is where you type in www.target.com. Wherever you type that in, you'll see that when you hit the enter button, along the left of what you typed in, www, some letters come up, and it's HTTP. And it's : / and then the www. Make sure it has HTTPS. S stands for secure. Make sure it's secure, because what happens is if that's secure, that it encrypts your data while it's being sent over the cyberspace. It encrypts the data so that if somebody were to intercept that message as it's going through cyberspace, they're not going to be able to get the particular information you put in because it's all encrypted, protected. And then what happens is when it gets to that site, at the end, it's decrypted. And so that the ultimate receiver that you sent the information to gets your information, but it's been encrypted and then it's converted back once it hits their site. So make sure you do that to protect yourself. Another thing is be careful about mistyping. When you type in something at the top, www. Make sure you type it in correctly and double check, because there's a thing called typo squatting. Typo squatting is where people realize that others are going to be mistyping. Like Google might be, instead of one of the O's, it might be an I, or there might be an extra I added. So Google, Google. And there are people out there that are buying those domains, those misspelled domains, so that when you type it in wrong and you hit enter, it actually goes to a place that somebody owns. And scam artists can make it look like Google. They may have copied Google's banner and put it in there. So it looks like you're in Google, when in fact you mistyped it and it's actually to some third-party site that you don't know. You think it's Google, and it may ask you for your passwords. And you're now, if you don't know what you did, you are now giving out your passwords and PINs to some third-party site, not Google, that you don't know where it's going. So be very careful about the typo squatting and make sure that you type in things correctly and double check. I saw a statistic that said that 80% of misspelled typos for domain names end up at a typo squatting site. So people are out there buying these domains so that they'll get you. And it could be a nefarious site where they're trying to steal your information. So be very careful about that. Those typo squatters can make fake websites, and you might be tricked into putting your login credentials or other personal information. So you need to be very careful. These are just some of the issues that can arise with the use of the internet. Be very careful. It's a great thing. It really is a great thing. But we have to be wise about using it. If anyone has any questions related to internet, I'm not a big techno person, so if you're asking me about the particulars of cyber information, I'm not the guy. But if you need any information regarding types of scams and things that are going on out there, I'd be glad to answer those. Pass it back to Sandy.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to the folks that joined us here today for this presentation. Mr. Danaher will be back with us on Thursday, January 16th at 11 a.m. with a presentation on consumer credit issues, which will be very timely after the Christmas holiday purchasing season. You can sign up to get the Zoom link on our website at ccetompkins.org/events. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you all.